here's an idea. Um, we'll see if it might be worth talking about publicly because it might garner some interest and some more kind of like national and global conversation. So, um, if if you've been a part of the podcast journey the past 3 years, you've seen Lance Linderman peek his little ginger head in from time to time, and you know that he's part of this team and likes to stir up trouble with us in all things kingdom ecosystem. And we've been kind of in the lab working pretty hard on this private equity idea. I don't even know if that's what we're going to call it, but we'll just use that term. Hugh and I have also been talking about this. I think we're going on 2 years. The initial conversation was, hey, let's just start our own bank
Yeah.
so that we can fund.
I think we were trying to just get $50 million. We've just been slow to that. So we can.
Well, we kind of did the math like loosely. We were just like, if we started working in all of post-Christian context all over the world, if we started working with, what we call brave city leaders all over the country, all over the world, what would we need to help, you know, underwrite, undergird, you know, uh, create some kind of foundation for this ecclesial renaissance? And we've done a lot of this locally. Like even recently, we just launched two new works in our city here in Alton. One that's centered around sports, youth sports, youth training. It's just been wildly successful just in the first couple months. One that's centered around food. You've heard us talk about wood fire pizza. Um, all of it is strategic. We went the pizza route because we're big on families and bringing families together. We think something significant happens. So we could talk about the strategy behind the works that we start, whether they're justice works, benevolent businesses, and of course, you know how passionate we are about intentional homes. We feel like that might be the actual like bread and butter for a kingdom ecosystem where we live. I mean, I love telling these stories, but like just last night, I'm just kind of surrounded by young men that want to be a part of our mentoring programs and our basketball programs. And so, because of that, inevitably, every Tuesday and Thursday, I end up filling up Lindsay's car with kids to take to practices. Because those are the nights, those are like our church nights, Tuesday and Thursday nights from 5:30 to 9. All I'm doing is going from gym to gym, dropping kids off, picking kids up, making sure coaches have basketballs and keys, and everything gets changed every week. Last night was hilarious, man. Like we're practicing at the middle school. My phone starts blowing up. We got 40 kids coming to practice because we have three teams practicing back to back to back. And it's just, guardians or parents or moms or whatever going, hey, we're at the middle school gym and it's locked and nobody's here. Well, the administration had moved us from what's called from one gym to another gym, but they just forgot to tell us.
Just gonna tell you.
So they told each other, we're not going to do it in the annex gym. We're going to move them to the college gym tonight. But the one detail they forgot was to tell us. So none of our coaches knew. So finally, after like 20 minutes, somebody
Mhm.
figured it out, and we got them over and we got things settled. And that's what every Tuesday and Thursday looks like. And then I found out halfway through practice, one of our 9 year olds told me that Dairy Queen was doing free ice cream
Mm.
for everyone,
For the whole world.
just
I
for
can
everyone
imagine.
that night. So that night around 8:45, I have so many kids. We walk into Dairy Queen, and this one woman walks up to me and Lynn's, and she goes, "Are all of these your children?" And Lynch just went, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
we're paying. We're paying.
So we love I mean, the intentional home thing is like you can't quantify how important it is to live within, sock distance of, um, you know, the people you want to love, the fatherless, the hurting, the lonely, whatever. But the thing that we're kind of focusing on, maybe in this conversation, and maybe it doesn't end up being a long conversation, but we started talking about, man, one of the hardest parts about launching, feeling the courage and or gaining the courage and the the wherewithal and even the mental kind of capacity to have vision for a benevolent business is feeling like you have a little support, like you have someone in your corner. So we started working on this idea of what if we could form our own bank that's literally like a kingdom bank? Because there's some good books out. There's one book by a guy named how do you say it, John? Is it Muhammad Yusuf? Yunus?
Eunice.
Muhammad Yunus, called Banking for the Poor. Great
Yes.
book. Another book by the same guy called Building Social Businesses. Some good nuggets in there. But after a lot of conversation with some banker friends of mine, they said, do not start a bank.
Yeah.
It's way too much red tape, way too much this, that, and the other. Start a private equity group. So we've been working on that. And we've put together what we think is a very attractive pitch to kind of form this fund of impact investors for Kingdom Ecosystem movement, literally all over the world. So, what do y'all think
By
about
the
that?
way, just a little description if you haven't heard the word impact investment. All that is in the normal investment world, there's a lot of people will give private what we call hard money loans, and the going rate is usually 10 to 12%. That's what investors expect for that. So they're basically loaning you their personal money for that. A lot of people take that route because it's hard to get loans from banks. So when we say impact investment, that's people that would say instead of expecting 12%, I would love to throw in 100 grand, and I'm willing to take 5, 6, 7%. That might be a standard impact investment number. So they're basically saying I'll make half as much as I would have because I know that this investment is going to actually have an impact on the kingdom or on the city. And there's quite a bit of that, but it's generally not leveraged from what we can tell into almost like a mutual fund for impact investors to take on a city. Or like if we had had that when we came to Alton, I mean, we had a handful of unique donors, but if we would have had a organized impact investment
Yeah.
group, it would have, I think, went a lot
And
easier.
this is the for-profit route. I mean, we will always have one foot in the nonprofit strategy because there's a lot of generous men and women, families out there that just want to kind of um, give a charitable donation at the end of every year or throughout the year. And we know we can utilize those funds to help a lot of people. But everything we think is about kind of creating self-sustaining engines. Everything we think is like, all right, even if it's just a small seed amount in the nonprofit bucket, we're still using it to try to seed something that's going to reproduce and
Mm.
almost be like a water wheel. But in the for-profit world, we really want to start businesses that are going to bless cities, that are going to invite people into life and hospitality and community. Earlier, before we even started this conversation, we were talking about welcoming the stranger, which is such a broad idea. You know, the stranger can range from the immigrant to the man or woman on the street to the lonely, kid that doesn't have anywhere to go after school to get a snack. I mean, it's a broad concept in and of itself, but all of our spaces and all of the entrepreneurs, kingdom entrepreneurs that we're trying to train and work with and encourage and inspire and consult. It's all the same pathway of there's hope. We think there's hope um, in Christ in the kingdom, and we want people to be able to encounter that hope in their kind of everyday life. So as we've worked with people, Hugh and I, we've just found that over and over and over that one of the primary roadblocks, which I don't think is faithlessness, I think is just reality of life, is the fear of or the concern of like, how do I do this? How do I take that first step of, you know, raising capital? And again, not free capital, capital that's going to have a return on it. How do I take that first step of raising capital? And I think we're pretty good at raising capital. You know, we might not be the best in the world because we're asking investors to lower their return expectation a bit, and to give us a little leeway in how we form this thing. But to think that that you're kind of a seasoned investor, that you have been blessed with significant wealth, and you want to do something significant with it, I would say these are the types of pathways that you would want to look into because we are not in like the sensational sense, but in the sense of the story we've been telling now for a couple decades. We're literally trying to change the world through kingdom economy. So, uh, what you think about that, John?
I mean, so much. I mean, one at the broadest level, I really love the conversation here because of the kind of idea. It's like, look, even a lot of this is even figuring out. Like as Hugh's talking about, like when we talk about impact investment, and I was gonna say like, there's the interest rate conversation, but also just like there's a million different ways something could be framed, right? In the conversation. I think it in the broadest level, it's just like investing to make impact, to see the change that we're trying to see happen and figuring out like the conversations moving from just the standard capital conversation to one about leveraging or innovating in the world in the realm of finance to go, man, ultimately in the world we're in, we're going to have to utilize dollars and cents. But the mission is still this is still what we're doing, but we have to do it in a way that is sustainable and appealing to still not just donors but investors and then creates this like I don't know virtuous cycle around that. But then it gives you if that fund is built, it gives you real opportunity to not just like go, okay, we can go in and partner with folks, whether that's seed capital, kind of matching in something, lending in different scenarios, but to have, and then that puts you as a partner with works all over the place where you can go alongside other builders and go, we're going to invest alongside you and come in as partners with you, maybe as capital partners, but then that also now puts you in a
Yeah,
place where you're going to do
literal. Let me
coaching and
interject.
mentoring. Yep.
Literal partners. Not like when you're a donor partner, it's
No, no, no.
special.
Right, 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 right. Like I have equity in this thing.
I have equity in this. Yeah.
Which I'm saying then puts you like one, you have real skin in the game that they're playing, but then also now you're like, hey, we're like that coaching relationship is deepened and transformed substantially. But because it's not just coaching, it's like we're in it together now. I'm gonna get in this boat with you, and we're gonna row. I think it's just an incredible conversation, and I just think like man, it could really mean I don't know. I guess it still feels like for me, like, it's conceptual, right? Because it's like for all of us, I know for me, like when we're talking about this, it's all of us have, it's not just like you said, like fear of like around capital. It's like we have a hard time raising it, right? Like, especially with a lot of the things that I've tried to build over time, like I've kind of had to go the nonprofit route with raising some of the capital as seed capital because I wasn't laying out a plan. Like this drop-in center we recently opened. I was like, it's maybe more in the justice work bucket, but it's like there was no real capital model or return on investment, we were able to get this building, and the only kind of thing I'm able to do is leverage the building now for like some a little bit of income, which is maybe just making stretching out my runway. But I am looking at the purchase of the building where I'm like, well, that's going to be 1.5 million. And I do think like that would be almost impossible for me to go get a loan on to buy this building. But in a scenario like this, there may be a low interest rate loan that I could go, hey, let's purchase the building to make this work properly sustainable. So I'm not throwing money into rental forever. We're actually building this asset
Which,
and
by the
then paying
way,
that back at 3, 5, 7%, which would be way better than whatever I would be able to get on a mortgage. And then also because you're doing it with someone going, my actual return on investment is what's good for the community. I just need to get my money back and like and to get and adjusting for, whatever inflation is going to look like over that time or something like that. We go, hey, I'm going to have to return that. But then that would make us long-term sustainable in that. And it's like even with something that's not a proper business plan, the acquisition of property would actually make that a reasonable, at least in my mind, that would be like a reasonable thing to put in front of that kind of a fund.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to say, I didn't mention it in my first kind of diatribe, but real estate is a huge part of this fund.
It's got to be.
Um, we actually we actually think that real estate will be the primary revenue stream.
Yeah.
We wrote out three revenue streams with the fund that will generate the returns for the impact investors. The first and most significant would be real estate. The second and almost equally significant would be small business equity and cash flow. And then the third is coaching and consulting, which will be an ongoing process from the team that's kind of guiding this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing I was going to say, just kind of so to catch you guys up, because I've been working on this while y'all have been at Christian conferences. Um, but
For shame.
the three the three things that we wanted to offer were that we let's right now working. All this is just kind of working. It's all beta, but three pillars that like that the private equity fund would offer. Number one would be our ethos, and so that would be mostly guided by our Brave Cities team. We wrote the Apostolic and Prophetic Foundation, Invitation, Permission, Theology, Training, Shepherding, Coaching, and Prophecy. Brave Cities provides the spiritual architecture that makes every ecosystem authentic and enduring. The second is funding. That will be mostly guided by Banquet. And again, if everybody remembers Banquet is our
Mm-hmm.
led by our friends in Phoenix, Lance and Gavin Linderman and Micah. Um, so quick descriptor there, private equity deployed into kingdom entrepreneurs investing in the archaeology, artistry, and architecture of ecosystems that go far beyond missional business into transformative community infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to highlight that because this is maybe the most important part of this fund is we're not looking to fund missional businesses. We're looking to fund kingdom ecosystems,
Mm-hmm.
which is worth at least stating. And then you can go to the book and read what's the subtitle? It's not business as mission, business is the mission. And the point of it is that our businesses form as an interconnected, distributed network within a city that kind of form a city within a city. So it's not like, hey, you're a Christian and you want to start a auto body repair shop that it is kind and shares the gospel with people and does Christiany things. Like we think that's awesome, pleasing to God, and we're supportive of you. That's not what this fund is targeting. It's targeting more of an apostolic ecosystem vision. And then within that, the smaller entities. And then the third thing is development. And this is kind of 50-50 Brave Cities and Banquet, which provides business coaching, pastoral mentorship, and leadership development. Every founder receives hands-on guidance, masterminds, and spiritual cohorts to grow with confidence and integrity. And another cool thing about this is we're inviting the investors who own the fund, by the way. We don't own the fund, we only manage the fund. And we're inviting those owners in to also be a part of development. They don't have to, but what a great way to use your kind of your legacy years
Yeah.
after you've built something super successful to now give all the wealth of knowledge and resources to other kingdom entrepreneurs that are wanting to do something significant.
Man, I love it. And I love, there's a word you used in the very beginning of this before you even maybe got into the topic, but it stood out to me. And I don't know if you've been using it regularly, but I don't know that I've heard you use it, the Ecclesial Renaissance, and like
Hmm.
these things being incubated in the kind of post-Christian context. I say more around that. Just like go back to that as a frame. It really intrigued me, and I think like it's exactly right. But I'm just interested to hear a little bit more like how you're thinking about
Let's
that.
let's both riff on that a little bit because I actually thought about calling this the Medici Fund,
Yeah.
um, because the Medici family, probably we're not going to because there's also some really dark legacy around that family.
So people are
But
using
we're
that
not
name
going to.
too for other
The
things.
idea was a great idea.
Yeah, the idea is it doesn't matter. There's dark stuff around Hughes family, but the point is this family was or this they're more like an empire almost, but they were accredited with being kind of the funders or the backers or the patrons of the Renaissance,
Hmm.
the actual Renaissance of art and music and artistic expression. And if you've kind of delved into a lot of what we've written and talked about, we like to tie that analogy
Yeah.
to kingdom movement.
Yep.
One of our one of our chapters or subheadings or something in our book is titled it's about music not math or something art not math, and we draw that from a friend who's a musician and used to say that all the time because we feel like this again to use the term I said earlier, this archaeology, artistry, and architecture pursuit is very authentic. It's very kind of patient, and it reminds us of that Renaissance period of saying, I want to do something original
Mm.
that's that has my like DNA on it, but it's a part of something that's all interconnected. So when we talk about an ecclesial renaissance, it's different than a reformation, and it's different than a protest. It's different than trying to reform what's already here. It's more of a rediscovery of what's always been. Is that, hey, and you want to know something? That's the first time I've ever used that term, ecclesial renaissance.
Well,
So
and by
maybe
the
we
way,
should build
I'm
on
just
that.
gonna name it because like for the sake of coming back, what you just said, and I almost want you to repeat, but like you're like it's different than a reformation. It's like you named like three things: different than a reformation, different than a
Different than a protest.
protest. I was like that we
It's
like th
not
that
trying to
is very
reform
like we
what
need to grab
exists.
that and work with that. That's very helpful. And then the idea is like a you said like a rediscovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
Yes.
something really powerful there with that as a frame and like naming what it's not kind of thing. Like this isn't like
Hmm.
tinkering with the knobs on the machine. It's an alternative entirely.
Yeah.
A born again, if you will, kind of like a different thing. It's a really powerful frame. You haven't
I was
used
trying to
that. Good, Hugh.
kind of sitting here thinking why this isn't more normal, like why we have to explain this because I mean, when Jesus is talking about money, about the only thing that seems to make him really mad is if we just sit on it. Like there seems to be almost, you put all the scripture, where he's talking about money, it seems like he's going to kind of bless if we put our hands to something. He's going to bless. I'd hate to say that God's desperate, but I think he's surprised when people go for it. And I think we're trying to give some framework for people to go for it again. That's the artistic kind of longing is like, look, we've dug around, we've done the archaeology, there's broken things here, and we're willing to make an effort at it. That's why I always get so upset when I'm in a fundraising meeting and I feel like I have to try to convince somebody.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be
Because I
doing
go
that.
like, how many people do you know that are actually trying to like give their lives for for something unique and helpful to the world? And I was at the end of the day go like, maybe you got 100 of these people, but when I really find out I've got a buddy of mine that sold a company for many many millions, and he's constant my whole life. He's told me he thinks I'm one of the most amazing, not me, like our family, like what we've done. And so I asked him for some impact investment one time, and he just was like, I don't know, man. He just like he couldn't see it. I'm like, well, you can see it. You can actually fly here and see what we've done, so there's a proof of concept. And uh, so I don't know. I just always go, well, what else? How else are we investing our money if we're not doing impact investing? Are we are we sure? Like a lot of people, I think that are giving are just giving almost like to 501c3
Mhm.
So,
because it feels good. And yet,
yeah.
in the 501c3 world, especially if you're getting federal funds or whatever, we've seen that. And so much of that is a colossal, I mean, it's just not a good system where we're trying to say, no, we want to give you like a healthy kingdom system to put your money into where there's accountability and whatever. But I just, I think I would pose the question to all of us and the listeners: why aren't we doing this as a natural use of our money? I go ahead.
I brought this up to a seasoned investor friend of mine, and he wanted to see the whole thing, and mostly just looking for advice, feedback, help me sharpen this, you know. I've found a lot of passion in the pursuit of this being a reality. Not for myself or for Hugh, really, or for you either, John, because we've been doing this for so long. Um, we're pretty good at pulling off what we want to pull off. We're pretty resourceful. It's for the hundreds, if not thousands, of young men and women that
Mhm.
we've spent time with over the past 5 years in like expanding our kind of our arms of connection and knowing that this is the barrier that that's a lot can't seem to get over. And I'll tell you, I'll confess this. Early on, this happened when we were in Texas many years ago. You probably won't remember the moment, but I do. But we were sitting with this young leader, and he actually started crying, and he was expressing that he had experienced some family tragedy, and that I'm pretty sure it was a terrible tragedy. I don't even want to recount it, but uh, that it had put his wife in a tough spot
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally,
Mm.
and he just knew he couldn't find like the courage to take that step of risking everything, even though this is what he believed in with all his heart. And I think I was wrong in how I felt. My feeling was then you don't deserve it. Then you don't have what it takes. And I think it could even be that conversation that might have started like a kind of internal pursuit and repentance in me to say, look, some people don't have, like, I don't know what it is when you're whatever you are, John. I don't know what you call you. You're borderline like sociopathic when it comes to risk.
I have a
Like it
very high
doesn't,
risk tolerance. It's also a
yeah,
problem. Yeah, yeah,
it is a
yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
but every significant strength can become a problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's both and.
And it has caused some negative effects on your life from time to time.
Uh-huh.
But to me, that's a resource. And when you have an abundance of resource, the reason it becomes a problem, check this out. This is like kingdom wisdom right here. Everybody listen. The reason you're what did you call it? You have a high risk tolerance.
Risk tolerance. Yeah.
That's a resource. When it becomes a problem is when you hoard it for yourself and you just use it all on your own stuff. You weren't supposed to do that. You were meant to share that with others and to use that for others. And I don't mean like to help others, because that's all John does. He spends all day, every day serving others. But in my opinion, and my challenge of your risk tolerance is that you have enough to go around. It's like our friend with an abundance of finances. You have enough to go around to begin to create and stand in that space for that young man we were with in Texas and say, I know what we can do here. Let me share some of my risk tolerance with you, and we begin to work on pathways for them. So sounds like you got something.
Yeah, well, a bunch actually. I've just been thinking as we're talking, like, so by the way, risk tolerance is actually like if you just were to Google risk tolerance, it's actually a term used for investment. So as you're talking about putting a capital fund together, this is an important conversation because it's actually something you would be asked, like an investor would be asked as they go to an advisor in a fund, because it's actually about the appetite for market fluctuation. So you have very conservative investors with a low risk tolerance, and then you have investors with a higher risk tolerance that can handle the ups and downs. And this is actually where that term actually comes from, is to say like they can go be an angel investor. They can be more VC, put into high risk things. They have high return possibilities at times, but that's actually like an investment term. But also but to me, it's always stood out to me as like it's also a term to use in anything we're investing in. We're investing our lives in. It's a term for builders. It's a term for it's a term that can be used in relationships and whatever we put ourselves to. And I think it'll be it's an important lens as you guys thinking about building up the fund, and even as you talk with people that could potentially invest alongside you with this. So that's one thought, but there's a couple things on my mind as we've been talking. Let me try to pull them together. One is in the book, you talked about the patrons frame, and I
Yep.
don't know if this is true, but I remember reading through that and thinking like there's a part of us, even I think that as you put that together, I imagine you're like, there's almost like we would love to see, we're saying we would love to see this, right? We'd love to see people doing this. And even maybe to have patrons that go, hey man, I got your back in this. I want to come alongside you and invest alongside you. But what's interesting to me about the evolution of this conversation is it isn't just what's happening with you right now is not going, we pray that they exist but to go, actually, we need to become them. So we need to
Mm,
become those patrons. Like you're saying, now I
mm,
want to bring together a team of people to go, we're going to
totally.
just embody that thing that we're praying for. We're praying that exists, but guess what? They're not coming out of the woodwork. And so we
Right.
have to cultivate that. And then as we cultivate that, and Hugh was talking about like a lot of money, Jesus affirming, like blessing the things we're doing with our money, and why are we thinking about it this way? And why is all the money going into 501c3? And I have some real thoughts on this because I actually know a guy that is doing this. He's mostly doing it with really high net worth individuals that actually have pretty large donor advised funds. And he is building this like impact investment thing with folks with donor advised funds and trying to have these conversations in the already set aside 501c3 fund stuff, but they can make investments with that. And he's trying to cultivate this thinking. And one of the interesting things that I've witnessed with, um, let's say, savvy investors that can use their money to make a lot of money. They know how to they know how to, they have a risk appetite, they can invest in companies, they can see returns on investment. A lot of times you're dealing with, and I think this is a real psychological phenomenon. You can see very smart people, what to me look like become very dumb in some of these conversations, where they're very smart with how they're leveraging capital, but it's very hard to switch gears. So I think we have two buckets, and it actually is like for profit, nonprofit. I know those are tax distinctions, but I think there's something in our brain where we go,
Yeah.
like, it makes sense
No,
to me
you're
to
right.
give you $1 million, but it doesn't make sense to me to invest $1 million for 1.2 or 3. It doesn't make
Totally.
sense to get it back at such a modest return on investment, even though I'm replenishing the fund. Because when I'm thinking about, and so I go, because what it's doing is it's awakening cost benefit analysis rather than benevolence. And I'm not going to get this exactly right. Maybe I brought this up with you guys before, but there was a study done, and I'm going to make up the details, but the point of it I know is right. So let's say there was a village in, let's say, like, in, I don't know, Ukraine, Russia, somewhere out there somewhere. And there's this village where they go, "Hey, we need," they go to these people. It was a study that was done and said, "Hey, we have this uranium, like this toxic waste that is being produced by something that's very good for the country, but very bad for whomever it is, like, buried near. Like, we have to dispose of this." And they go to this village and they're like, "Hey, for the sake of, like, the country, for the sake of our people, for the sake of whatever, would you all be willing to accept that this is going to be near your village and it's going to have toxic impact on your community and family? Like, this isn't going to be good. You're going to have to bear the weight of this." And interestingly, they did the same thing with another subset of the people, where they offered them money. So they said, "We're going to pay you to do this." And the percentage was way higher of people that said yes to the thing when there was no money offered. Like, it's just good for the nation, versus
Mm.
when they said, "We're going to pay you and it's going to be bad for you." It's like, and what they were demonstrating is it's waking up another part of the mind. It's like, it's not worth the money. Like, I don't want negative. The cost benefit analysis was awoken in me, and when I put it in those, like, now it's dollars and cents, and that's a bad return on my investment. Like, I don't want my family
Yeah.
to be sick for some money. But there was a much higher percentage of human beings that said, "Yeah, if it's good for our people, if it's good for the world, if it's, then I can stomach the negative consequences to myself." That, to me, and I should look this up and find this actual study, but to me, it really well illustrates what's going on in our, like, there's two different calculations that go on in our brain, where it's like,
Yep.
yeah, I can lay my life down out of love, but I can't lay my life down for a paycheck like that. And I think when you get into these investor conversations, that's the tension that we're fighting between. It's like, why we go, well, we'll put it into 501c3, but this, like, hybrid investment model is actually a very hard conversation. It's a new kind of
Yeah, so it is
insight.
a hard conversation, and the point is we have to have a hybrid
That's right.
way of pitching it. And I think the hybrid way of pitching it is to, number one, um, this is impossible to do, but you still try to kind of prophetically express what we sense that God has been saying.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's most important, just to have integrity, to say somewhere along this journey, we felt like the Spirit of God, or some kind of sensation or some kind of like inkling, was saying, I see the future, move away from this donor heavy model. Trust me. And we went, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't planning on doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We had written lots and lots of strategy on the nonprofit holding company model,
Yeah.
and we thought it was a no-brainer. But we're not abandoning that ship,
Yeah. I
but
still
we're
love
we're
that.
building a
Right.
new one.
Yep. That's right.
And I just, for whatever reason, that has to be part of the thing for me, is to go, look, I don't know enough about business, finance, or the economy or the world to know why this was so prevalent on my heart,
Yep.
but it was. Number two is the strategic idea behind it. And look, we know that your brain operates in buckets and you're thinking about return and blah blah blah. But what you have to understand is that we're trying to create something that self-feeds.
Yep.
That's an engine that runs off of water. So when you give impact investment, it is coming back, which will then allow you to give more as a like as a self-feeding mechanism. And then that feeds someone that will build something that will self-feed, that will hopefully turn them into an impact investor, that they will then be able to feed into impact investing. When you just give a donation, the truth is, almost across the board, all the data shows that you're just throwing a rock into a bottomless pit.
And most of the time, the giver knows that. Most givers to nonprofits kind of go, I don't know if this is going to, I mean,
Well,
that's
they're going
the
to come back
reality.
and need it again.
Yeah.
Yep. In almost all cases.
Nature. It's not even a critique. It's only a fact.
Yep.
Like we could go the critique route for sure. But my same friend was telling me about a retreat that he had just returned from a large orphan care ministry that Lindsay and I love and support. And their annual budget is around 25 million. And the whole point of this retreat is to raise somewhere between 10 and 15% of their annual budget at this one retreat. Whoa. And then they spend the rest of the year trying to raise the other 85%.
Right.
And that is their process.
That's pretty normal.
Is every year they do a retreat, yep, raise 15%, which of course is what, like 3.5 million. And then they spend the rest of the year trying to raise the other 20 to 22 million through letters, donor meetings, dinners, so on and so forth. It's not a critique. It's just a fact of you are giving to something that will inevitably need just as much or more the next year.
Yep.
What we're trying to create is engines that self-feed, that will then feed back into the fund, that will then grow the fund and self-feed a big. So there is a strategy component that I don't think is better per se. Let's say it is better. That's not the point. I really genuinely think is necessary.
It just has to exist. I think that's right.
But I'm talking about on a prophetic scale. I think we are closer than we think from not being able to have those retreats where we raise 15 to 20% of our annual budget. I think we're closer than we think from not being able to have those donor conversations where we say, if you give this much, you get a tax write-off, you get this, that, and the other. We're already seeing it in places all over the world, whether it's legally or culturally, it's happening. And so I don't know I can't pinpoint a time or a day or a reason. I can just say that there's more to this than strategy. There's actually like future insight where we're going, hey, we need to start working on this now and crafting it and honing it and bringing, really strategic kingdom-minded friends into this reality, because it's going to become more important in years to come than even it is now.
Yeah.
Hey, can I throw a little side thing in this? Because I've heard this a lot from investors. They are weary also to invest in businesses at all because most businesses fail. Mm-hmm. And so again, there's that mindset of like, I don't want a crappy return. I also don't want to just lose my money with this. So think back to the Medici story. I wasn't there, but my guess is the Medici family didn't just set out a sign that said, any artist come by the office and we're going to fund you. My guess is they went to some proven artists that were respected in the city and went, hey, we're going to drop a little fund on you, but we're going to trust you guys to go find the legit artists because we want a real renaissance. And I think what we're saying in an impact investment, we're trying to build that in. Like we're not just gonna. In fact, we don't. We want any young artist that's just barely out of art school that just bought their first little paint, satchel. We want to get with them and meet with them, hear their heart, help them, mature them. But I hope people hear this as part of the impact investment fund strategy is that there's a built-in accountability by those that have proven
Yeah, it's funny
something.
because again, like the Medici, the reason we wrote about that is because we think there's some kind of like supernatural analogy to all of their story, and there's no way that this family in and of themselves were filled with these struggling
Mhm.
artist types,
Oh, they were up on the hill. They didn't even,
right?
yeah.
What they did is they found gritty, you know, uh, musicians and visual artists that had been, uh, you know, side hustling their whole life, taking commission after commission, concert hall after concert hall, just to try to practice their art in the
Mhm.
purest way possible. And they said, go and find us other artists because they kind of, no offense to you guys and ladies up on the hill, but you kind of don't see the world through a real lens sometimes. You've you've lived in such a way, you've been blessed in such a way that it's hard to understand, it's hard to see that gleam in someone's eye to know this guy's a real, he's a real Renaissance guy. Like
Mhm.
he's got the thing. She
Mhm.
can pull this off. Let's invest in her. And so that is part, that's why we call ourselves the managers of the fund, is we want to go find the artists.
Yeah.
Yep.
We want to go find the city builders, and we want you to entrust us to be able to see that same fire in their eyes. Will we fail? Sure, of course. I think failure is actually part of the great story, but yeah, I agree, man. Like you got to have some people who still kind of smell like the dirt a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and then to name the thing you're saying too, and even in a lot of investment circles, you'll hear this where it's like you're not betting on like the business as much as you're betting on the jockey. You're betting on the
The
builder.
person, yeah.
You're going, hey man, you got to find the person that's got the reps in, that has the
Yep.
DNA, the fire in their belly or that spark in their eye that you're talking about, and go, I'm gonna bet on this individual and the thing that they're
So
embodying
folks that
and
are
bringing into the
listening,
world.
so if you're listening to this, I wouldn't just listen to this. This would be, I know many of you have people that you think would be great impact investors. Maybe send this little podcast to them, have them process it with you. If you are maybe one of those potential
Yeah,
investors, you just want to talk more. How do people get a hold of us, John? By the way, they can go through bravecity.com, right? They
I
can
believe
find
so. I
phone
believe
numbers
so.
and
Yep.
emails and
Yep.
all that,
The
right?
contact through there.
So if you just want to chat, we'd love to process this with folks. So
Absolutely.